New toy, guys. So this is not exactly mud puppy related, but it is off-road related. And driving RC stuff's a pretty good way to get your skills up. So a nice third-person point of view. So this is the TRX-6 TRX-6 AMG Mercedes 6x6. It's really cool. I'll give you a little quick review of it, and I'll show you a little course I made. I've only had it for a couple hours. This is literally the first one motor, one steering servo. See how hot the motor is? Not hot at all. Speed controller. This servo locks and unlocks is for high and low range. This servo is for the front diff. This servo is for the rear diff. So it's really pretty how they did this. See the nice little stainless cables going into here. That cable comes down to your front diff right there. See the cable going into the diff? And that locks and unlocks the diff. It's phenomenal. And you see how there's two cables on that servo? That's because both of the rear axles lock and lock simultaneously. So on the controller, I have this switch up here. This is the magic switch. This is the equivalent of the diff lock switch in the Lexus, which is the most beautiful thing in the world. So right now they're both locked all the way this way. So if I move it to, go right here so you can see better. If I move the switch to the center position, the rear diffs are now unlocked. So they are unlocked and you can spin them. They have differential action, right? One spinning one way, one spinning the other way. Differential action. And the same thing with the front. If you go to the leftmost position, the front's now unlocked and they are immediate. So the front's open diff, and let's go back to the center position. So the center position is just front lock. Now the front's locked. It's phenomenal. It works great. So I can show you the transmission working too. So there's the transmission servo. Right now, when the switch is down, you are in high range. So we'll switch it to low range. See the little arm? That's it, shifting gears. It's phenomenal. It works great. You can do it while it's rolling. I'm a little careful with it. When I'm in high range, I'm a little careful with the diff locks. Same kind of stuff you do with a regular four-wheel that has a front locker or truck with a locker or anything like that. So this battery I got in here is just a 2S LiPo. It can go up to a 3S. I've got a really big 2S charging right there. But it is really cool. But the number one thing that made me want to buy it is the portals. So it's got a ton of ground clearance. The portals are really well made. There's grease in there, there's metal gears in there, there's a 2-gear system. Nice high steer, so the steering doesn't drop down in front of the portal. The steering's tucked up here where it's safe. I mean, it is just like a little truck. So I'm gonna flip it upside down real quick. Don't be disoriented. So there's it laying on its side, kind of upside down. So in the front, we have 3-link suspension with a panhard bar, if you can see the panhard bar in there. So pretty much the Land Cruiser, right? And the way the shocks are mounted, they made on them as long as they could. The same bolt goes through all here, so it's very clean. And in the rear, you have 2 sets of triangulated 4-link. And you see the drive shaft comes in here, out here to the back axle. And because of the pinion, because of the portals, you can see the portals there all the way through. It means that your pinion gear's up higher. So these driveline angles are like nothing, even at full down travel. So the driveline angles are really straight. Don't think I'm having any drive shaft issues. Portals are just great for a lot of different reasons. And these look really good and they feel pretty strong. Yeah, just really, really love it. It's got the fake exhaust because it is a V12 bi-turbo. But it's just a super clean car. Beadlock wheels. I read something about these wheels being like a little smaller. I think they're like 1.9 wheels on 2.2, 1.9 tires on 2.2 wheels or something. So they stretched them over there so they don't flex super good. They flex pretty damn good. I'm fine with it. People complain about the steering servo. It's worked fine, and I think I did order a spare, just have an upgrade because that's something I usually break. I think the one thing you do need to upgrade is the plastic steering horn. You see it right there. I got one of those coming in tomorrow. But it's really cool. It's not brushless. There's a lot of brushless systems if you want more power. Do you really need it with something like this? I don't know. Depends what you're using it for. If you're using it for bashing or for crawling more. I'm probably not gonna mess with it. So that cable right there is for the rear locker. But yeah, really, really cool car. Portals, 6x6, 3 locking differentials, and high and low range. And you do want the high and low range, it's a really nice thing. And what the 6x6 does is it lets it climb really steep things, like 50, 55 degrees, because it's got a long wheelbase. But because there's another axle here, it doesn't have the problem where it gets high centered under the center. So here's a little size comparison. That's the smallest low-C crawler, the low-C mini crawler, and this is the low-C Rock Ray. So obviously I'm a low-C fan. Low-C stuff's all excellent. Traxxas has been junk for a long time, in my opinion. My Revos blew through diffs left and right. But one thing you'll notice is the ground clearance. So portals, independent on way bigger tires. Portals have the same clearance. And then compared to this one, That's really this one's only problem. It has very little clearance under the center of the axle. This is a worm gear drive and it's super tiny, so it's a little bit less relevant, but it also has very little clearance under the axle. So that's a pretty good comparison for you size-wise. This thing is long, which helps it climb really steep stuff and not tip backwards. It's actually longer than my Rockray, which is a way bigger car. And that length helps it climb, but as you can see, even though it's longer than the Rockray, it has a shorter wheelbase between the two front axles. So the 6x6 isn't really a gimmick. It actually lets it do some stuff that you couldn't do otherwise. It's pretty interesting. There is a TRX-4, which is like a 4x4, but obviously I had to have the 6x6 because I've always wanted a Unimog. But yeah, little size comparison. All great cars, very tough. Losi's probably my favorite. Oh, I actually have an axial truck too I could put down there. This is a SCX-10. Had for a while. It's been thoroughly abused. Needs a speed controller. Just a little wheelbase comparison. So the wheelbase on this is actually the same between the front. It's just missing the back axle, so that one will tip backwards, where the Unimog won't, the Traxxas, and it does have a little smaller tires. But yeah, pretty cool comparison. Rock crawlers. Probably not going to use them ever now that I have this one because it's just so much cooler. So the thing that none of these have is they don't have high and low range. They're all single speed, and they don't have locking diffs. Well, they're fully locked, except for this one. This one's not in the front. This one's got an open diff in the front, and then the back is locked. Fully locked, locked open, and this one is fully locked as well. So most crawlers are 2-channel because you just have steering and throttle. This is 5-channel because you have control independent of front and rear lockers, and you have high and low range, which sounds dumb, but on a 6x6, you have to have the lockers or your turning radius is terrible. I did a little bit of a test. It's about double your turning radius with everything locked versus unlocked. So it's a pretty big difference. This is the only thing here that's brushless, so it's obviously way faster. Those Rockrays are a really good deal, by the way. If you're looking for a good basher car, they're cheap, they're indestructible, and they're really fast. So I definitely don't know RC cars like I know 300s, but I've had a couple. These are the ones that have survived. So as you can see, I like Losi. These are all Losi, except this is an axial CS10 and the gray one. But learning how to drive RC cars well, it's a great way to learn how to drive trucks well and four-wheelers and stuff. You'll learn a lot, and it's a great way to get into it without spending a ton of money. This is by far my favorite just because of the magic buttons, as I call them, Land Cruiser. High and low range and lockers. Outstanding. It's also customizable. It has things like cruise control and all that other stuff, but those are all kind of gimmicky. The things that are really cool about it are the portals, the high and low range, and the lock. And I've had a lot of reliability issues with my previous Traxxas products. I haven't bought one in a long time, and I really liked the TRX-4, but I was holding back, and I'm glad I waited, and this is out now, and I actually had to have it. It's very well reviewed. People are running 6S LiPo setups in these things with no issues. And that's pretty amazing considering it's designed for a very weak brushed motor, and it's got a pretty complicated drivetrain, obviously 6 axles and all that. So I think Traxxas has finally made a real quality product with these TRX-4s and TRX-6s. They have really good reviews, and people say they're holding up great, so went ahead and got one. And I don't plan on doing a whole lot of mud and stuff like that, but the guy at the hobby store did tell me if you're taking a lot of mud and water and you don't clean out the diffs, the lockers will start to act up. Go figure. But it's good to know. And also I bought it from Graves Hobbies in Orlando, Florida. Same price as you can get on Amazon, and they had several of them in stock. And I really wanted the silver, so I'm glad they had the silver body. Looks great. That's my favorite color on the AMG 6x6. If you haven't seen the Top Gear episode of the AMG 6x6, you must watch it. They take one of these to Dubai in the sand dunes and drive it through a lazy river. That's happens if you do too much of the other thing. You can do speed and power, but it's not